All right, this video is on the cycles of matter. This will be important to understand for your bottle ecosystems. All right, so we're going to start with the water cycle. Now, all of the water that we have here on Earth today is all of the water that we've ever had. It just continues to cycle. And to start with here, of course, we have precipitation, which is just like rainfall and snowfall. Okay, water moves from the atmosphere to the earth. Sometimes it gets taken up by plants, and other times it is going to be stored in a lake or a river or a pond. But here's plant uptake. So the roots of plants take in the water. Okay, but what happens to it next? There's this fancy word here called transpiration. It's just a fancy word for evaporation through plants. So water moves through the plant and evaporates through the leaves. Okay, and that's transpiration. The water comes in through the roots and then out through the leaves. All right, and where does water go when it moves from a lake or a body of water to the atmosphere? That's evaporation. Okay, a liquid turns into a gas. And feel free to add in these gray colored arrows here too if you need the direction that each of these is moving. Okay, evaporation. And then we have condensation. So the water is then moving from the atmosphere back to Earth. Water vapor becomes a liquid and it falls again as precipitation. And this cycle just continues and continues. Okay. Then we have the carbon cycle. So carbon is an element. You can find it on the periodic table, and it makes stable bonds with many different molecules, one being oxygen. So carbon forms carbon dioxide, CO2, okay, and that's one way that it moves through our Earth. But let's look at some other things here. So each of these boxes with the words represent carbon sinks. And what carbon sinks are is they store carbon. Okay, carbon can be stored in water, it can be stored in the atmosphere, in rocks, in plants, and in fossil fuels. Okay, in animals. This one here, we're just going to refer to as animals. Okay, I meant to change that. Okay. Then the arrows here represent carbon fluxes. And that just shows us the direction that carbon moves. Okay, so let's look at some of the processes that happen here. We have carbon can evaporate from ocean water and go into the atmosphere. Okay, it's probably going to do so as CO2. So evaporation, carbon in ocean water moves to the atmosphere through evaporation. Next, we can have weathering. So we have carbon is stored in rocks, but weather happens, wind and whatnot, and then it can move to the atmosphere. Okay. Carbon in rocks moves to the atmosphere through any type of weathering. Okay. We have photosynthesis, which happens in plants, and that's when carbon in the atmosphere is taken in by our plants. Okay. They take in carbon dioxide and release oxygen, the opposite of what we do. This means they keep the carbon as part of their biomass. If you think about it, CO2 is going in, but only O2 comes out. So that means the plants keep the the carbon. That is stored as matter, as part of their biomass, part of their plant body, if you want to call it that. Okay. Next, we're going to say this is animals. You can relabel this as animals. Okay. Decomposition. So when organisms die, bacteria are going to break them down, and carbon dioxide is released into the atmosphere when that happens. Okay? We also have animals that do respiration, which is just breathing. We take in oxygen and release carbon dioxide to the atmosphere. Okay. Combustion. So, this is all of our vehicles driven by fossil fuels. Combustion. So, we have the carbon in fuel reacts with oxygen. And then what comes out the tailpipe? We have carbon dioxide that goes then to our atmosphere. Okay, and that builds up and can cause problems. But remember, with fossil fuels and trying to find new energy sources, we need to be smart about if those new energy sources are really going to be helpful for our environment or not. Okay, so then we have consumption. Okay, animals here can eat the plants, and plants hold carbon, right? So living things eat other living things, which moves carbon from one living thing to another. So it could be animals eating another animal or eating plants. Okay, so our last one here is the nitrogen cycle. This will really come into play when we're talking about your water ecosystem in your bottle ecosystem. Okay, so you have your little fish here. We're going to have guppies. Now they produce waste. In their waste is ammonia, which is NH3. The N is nitrogen. Okay, they produce ammonia. If any of your plants die or start to decay, or any leaves fall off and decay, that also produces ammonia, NH3. Next step, what happens to that ammonia? Well, because we added some either fish tank or whatever, turtle tank water, salamander tank water to our bottle ecosystems, or we added river water, that contains bacteria. Okay, this is why we wouldn't want to just add water from the sink with the chlorine taken out. Okay, probably not going to have the good bacteria that we need. So, these bacteria are going to eat the ammonia and they're going to poop out, they're going to produce nitrite. Okay, nitrite. That's NO2. Okay, now there's another type of bacteria, a second type of bacteria that will be in the water. They eat the nitrite, the NO2, and they poop out or they produce nitrate, okay, which is NO3. It just has an extra oxygen. What happens to nitrate? Well, this is actually a pretty good thing. Our plants will take in the nitrate. It's kind of like a fertilizer, actually. So it feeds the plant in a way. Okay, they take that in. So essentially, our ammonia has been converted to nitrate, and the plant will take it in. But the cycle continues. Old growth will die and produce ammonia. The fish is going to continue to produce ammonia, and your bacteria will continue to convert it. So we don't have a buildup of ammonia, which is toxic to the fish and the whole environment. So there we have the nitrogen cycle. I hope this was helpful. Have a great day.